Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon. I am moderating the webinar today. I am Pradeep Saputhanthri, Executive Council member of SLEvA. On behalf of SLEvA, I would like to welcome you all for the third webinar of this series, Improving Governance with Policy Evaluation. First of all, I need to remind you some ground rules. Please kindly request you all to switch off the microphone and video. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand at the end of the presentation. First, as per the agenda, first I would like to invite Mr. Ranjith Wimalasooriya for the opening remarks. Ranjith Wimalasooriya is the Treasurer of Sri Lanka Evaluation Association and member of Sri Lanka Administrative Service, currently working as the Additional Secretary of the Ministry of Industries under the subject of Public Enterprise and Restructuring. Mr. Ranjith.
Mr. Ranjith, you are muted.
Thank you, Pradeep, and very good evening to all of you, and good morning and good afternoon to some of you. And at the outset, let me warmly welcome again you on behalf of the SLEvA, Dr. Mrs. Sepalika Sudasinghe, Director General of National Science Foundation, who is our resource person today, and the moderator, Mr. Pradeep Saputhanthri, Commissioner General of Department of Registration Person. And I am pleased to welcome all the participants who have joined with this important webinar. As you all know, the topic of the day is improving governance through evaluation, which has a timely value and importance, as well as greatly interested by a huge number of participants. As citizens of a country, we all have different type of relationship with the policies introduced and implemented by the government. In some cases, we are policy makers. Sometimes we are the implementers of some policies. Ultimately, as citizens, all of our beneficiaries of those policies. The word policy has a broad meaning. I think you may have heard about the people who do not have a stable policy, but I believe that today's discussion will mainly focus on the government policies and the use of evaluation for getting the best results out of those policies. The common perceptions of the general public on the policies of some countries is that not having a consistent policy is the policy itself. It is obvious that the policy inconsistency and lack of coordination of policies create a lot of repetitions and jumbles, and also create waste of time. Let's see whether we can find any solution for those drawbacks. Without taking much of your time, I'd like to invite our speaker and the moderator to commence the session. Dr. Sepali and Mrs. Saputhanthri, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjith. Thank you for your insightful thoughts. We have a fantastic speaker today, Dr. Sepalika Sudasinghe. She is the Director General of and CEO of National Science Foundation on secondment basis and senior consultant to the Sri Lanka Institute of Development Administration. More than 33 years experience in public sector, served as the Additional Director General and the head of the School of Postgraduate School of SLEvA. A recipient of multiple awards for her leadership, she has recognized from the Award of Leadership Excellence in 2018 This award recognizes an individual with exceptional contributions and achievements in the state and government sector and awarded by Women in Management in partnership with IFC, a member of the World Bank Group. A researcher, doctor, research advisor, academic and practitioner in the public sector. She has also served as a principal consultant for several national policy formulation committees and several high-level committees of the governments, such as chairman of Policy Drafting Committee of the National Traditional Medicine Policy of Sri Lanka, chairman of the Policy Drafting Committee, Tourism Policy Sri Lanka, and the principal consultant of the Food Security Policy of Sri Lanka. Today, Dr. Sepalika Sudasinghe will share her insights on the topic of improving governance with policy evaluation. Please, let's welcome the speaker today, Dr. Sepalika. Floor is yours, Doctor. You have 30 minutes for presentation, followed by 20 minutes Q&A session.
Thank you very much. And may I share the presentation slides?
Okay.
Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. And good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening to all of you. And first of all, let me thank SLEvA for inviting me today for this important discussion. So it will be about, like, as you said, it's I'll be finishing within the given period of time. And it's today the discussion is about, it's about the problems that you and me and we talked about. It's about evaluation, it's about governance, and it's about what we can do in improving the living standards of our people. So when we, before starting the, this is all about my thoughts and my concerns, and you may comment on that, you may agree, might not. So you may raise questions, and it's a kind of a, I would like to have more questions, in the sense, not questions, your comments and thoughts. So as be aware, and every day, if you watch news, TV, or listen to the radio, you can see that there is a great demand for public. They really demand for high quality public services, and they have a problem of meeting the basic needs. Actually, we have seen that public expectations, it's really on rise, and at the same time, we have seen news, and when we talk to the others, to our colleagues and all, we talked about the corruption and maybe lack of transparency, even if I use the technical terms, right? And government responsiveness and the responsibility, the effectiveness of the public services delivered from the different levels of the government organizations. So these are really the concerns of you and me and of all of us. So that has seen as the barriers or impediments to inclusive growth and development of any country, and same here. So because of this, we have seen that the governments have taken and lot of, the measures improving and introducing innovations and technology to help streamline and promote public services and to ensure governance in the systems. in this regard, we have seen that we have introduced various forms of digitalization projects, technology applications, particularly to improve the delivery of the public services. But however, we have seen this problem in the society, and we have a concern of who is responsible for this. So what is the responsible agency, and whom can really, the mediate, address to the demands of the people today? So in that sense, we believe that it's the government, because it's the government should provide the public goods and the public services. So there are so many other responsibilities of the government, but for this particular context, I'll be limiting to provision of public services and public goods. So it's the nexus between, the demand of the people and the role of government. So it's the problem with that context. Let me move on to the today's. It's a story. It's about to discuss how well the topic of today, it's the policy evaluation, will, can facilitate, support, and strengthen the system in improving the implementation and the design and the formulation of the public policies in a proper, the expected manner, in ensuring the standards of that towards ensuring the well-being of the citizens. So for that, so I have, given here the lineup of, how I have lined up this presentation to discuss and to ensure, to identify how we can improve the governance through policy evaluation. To start, let me discuss certain limitations and the operational definitions of this, because we want to identify, what exactly the governance, what exactly the policy evaluations in practice and specifically to this context. So we know that it's all about the process of decision making, the process by which the decisions are implemented or not implemented, and it's all about the standards. Actually, how can we ensure these standards into public policy and public, the policy evaluation? When you say, when we talked about the policies, I would say, I have policies. The way that I talk, walk, and work, it's my policy. It's a personal policy. I have certain limitations, and it's my decision. So beyond that, we have organizational policy. It's the organization, the work, and their decision. So beyond that, we have public policies for the public, decisions taken for the public, right? So then, I have taken this Thomas R. Dye's definition, public policy, and it's the simplest, and this is the definition that I like, simple, and it has a great meaning. And if you say, what the government do? It's the public policy. Just walk around and look around. So it's the decisions taken by the government. That's all about public policies. And they have a rationale for that, why they do it. And so maybe the problems that I have discussed earlier, and people and public demand for high quality public services, and they demand for basic needs, and they're really concerned about the corruption, transparency, and government efficiency and effectiveness of these. Maybe that may be the problem, and that may be the decisions the government has taken to do or not to do. And the third component is the difference it makes. So if you want to check the difference, if you want to recognize what's the impact, what is the change that these decisions has, the influence. So it's about the analyzing, evaluation of the work that we have done. So I think it's about, so today even the topic is about what the government do, why they do it, and the difference it makes, and how can we, deliver these services, either implement through programs, projects, or different means of maybe as laws, and how well it has structured, how well this has, reached to the expected goals and, the objectives of the program, project, or the other ways of implementing these decisions. So in that sense, it's very important for us to maintain certain standards. If you want to maintain the standards, this program or the project has to be in a kind of a framework. So this framework will ensure whether it has reached to the expected planned outputs, outcomes, and benefits from the projects and the programs and portfolios. So we know that for that, we need, if you want to structure this work, it's a professional intervention, right? It's a professional work. So it's a mechanism where we have to have group of professionals in the system. So we have to have strong tools to evaluate, professionals to, develop certain measures and tools, and then only we can ensure the end results which we expect, which we earlier discussed as the problem. So it's all about tools. It's all about the professional involvement. So if we can ensure that, so by the end of the day, we can bring the expected results as goals and objectives of those decisions. So when we discuss this in detail, there's another concept I just want to highlight at this moment. It's the concept of evidence-based policymaking. When you say evidence-based decisions or evidence-based policymaking, from the term itself, it's crystal clear on the basis of the evidence you make decisions. Because we know that policymaking or the policies are decisions, right? It's a technically sound, validated, let's say those are all, again, theories. Because all policies are theories till those implemented. So this is also a very good point for us to consider and think of at this point, because it's all about research skills. It's all about conceptual skills. And there's a point that I just want to highlight at this moment. This is relevant to the policy evaluation as well. That is, there are three main enabling factors if we are to ensure the evidence-based practices. That is, there has to be the information available, data available to the specific topic. Then only we can have a good evaluation. Maybe big data, right? So availability of high quality information. Number two, this is what I have highlighted, the professional with skills with data analysis, right? So we are talking about public policies, maybe the public sector, maybe the private sector, NGOs, any other sector. We need a group of people as policy analysts. In other countries, in developed countries mainly, you find policy analysts in system. Analysis for a policy, analysis of the policy. It's an evaluation. So, and the third component is the political incentives or readiness of the political authority to listen to and to accept this information. So with that, I'm not going to I'm discussing in detail this point, but this is also important for us to consider in this, the discussion. And let me, from policy to policy evaluation to, identifying what exactly the governance. So let me move on to the next point that I just want to, would like to draw your attention on. The policy making process and evaluation stage of that. Let me have the point option. So it's like you can see policy making it's a process. Actually, sometimes we may say like, we have done the policy drafted and that has handed over. That's the end of the story. Not at all. Policy making it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. You can see the stages, it's the decision to, identify the problems and all, and it's the agenda setting stage, and the designing stage, adaptation stage, adoption, and most importantly, the implementation stage. So sometimes majority believe, okay, that has formulated, that has accepted, now we only have to implement it. The majority are not interested in the final stage. Actually, we can't say it's the fifth stage. This has to be the first stage of some of the new policies. We are not working in a no policies situation. You can't say we don't have policies. We had policies. We are continuously the revising and updating and upgrading policies because we are in a dynamic society. It's, it has to be a continuous process. If you want to continue the process, if you want to, upgrade and update the policies in line with the need of the society, the concern is the policy evaluation stage. You can see from this picture from here, policy evaluation may be the evaluation of the previous policies, the efficiency and the effectiveness of the previous policies that may lead to, decide that we should formulate a new policy or else upgrade or revise or amend the existing policies. So as a result of that, we may design a policy. At the same time, when it's come to the formulation stage, the information, the data, and the analysis of the previous policies, how those have worked to, reach to the expected benefits, and this information from the evaluation is really, really important to formulate and design policies. I think that is the most important stage. That is where the policy evaluation, it has become very important. Not only that, evaluation really, the support and strengthen the implementation stage. Policy implementation may be the process evaluations, maybe the impact evaluations, maybe it's the summative evaluation that support the policy implementation to be strengthened. I'm sure that from this end, you will identify how important the specific topic that we are discussing about today. It's the policy evaluation in the policy making process. So as I said, this is a never-ending process. you should not stop at the policy implementation stage. So it has to, go on and on, because we are in a dynamic society. So that's why people demand for high quality public services in reaching and the addressing to the basic needs of them. So with that, let me move on to another point that I just want to highlight. It's about the why policy evaluation. So this is what I continuously discuss about. Nothing but it is to understand really what exactly the policy problem is. It's very important. Sometimes we say people understand everything other than the real problem. Problem identification is very difficult. That's why I said we need group of professionals in the system whom really can understand this reality, the problem. So then only we can bring solutions in addressing to the problems. So therefore, if we want to avoid policy failures, why we talk this much about the social unrest and the demand of the people? Because they see policy failures. If you want to avoid policy failures, the answer is proper, technically planned policy evaluation. Then with that, let me draw your attention for another point. Why policy evaluation? It's to check whether our tax rupees at work, because that's my concern. That's your concern. That's our concern, right? We want to be aware of. It's about transparency and it's about the accountability. We are talking about, actually another aspect that I want to integrate in this at this point to this discussion is the good governance and the governance practices. We are worried about how the progress of the tax money and whether our tax money is at work and whether this has gone to whether this has reached to the expected goal and objective. Maybe again summative or the formative evaluation, because we want to check the progress. And that's why we need policy evaluation. So at the same time, we really concerned about why actually, just give me 1 minute. Right. Okay. Now I just want to, right. So by, the promoting policy evaluation, we can, as I said, we can avoid the policy failures, but we have challenges. We have challenges simply because we really sometimes not interested in using evaluation results in reviewing the policy decisions that we have taken. And at the same time, we have lack of human resources with us for this type of a technically sound policy evaluation. But anyway, if we are to have a proper kind of this type of an intervention, that really facilitates in ensuring the quality of life of people. So let me go back to the starting point of my discussion. I started with the problems in the society. Problems in the society is mainly about the quality of life of people. So the quality of life of people and the poverty and the problems of the people, it's like two sides of the coin. right? If you want to change that and bring the results and to address to the quality of life of people, nothing but it's all about the strength of this technical intervention. And that technical intervention can really strengthen through, the certain, adding some certain components, ensuring certain aspects of that. So what are the benefits of that? As you are aware, so this evaluation is a research. It's a kind of analysis. So where, let's say it's a large scale development project, small scale. So it can be a program or it can be a project. But by the end of the day, we will be evaluating it with the support of the beneficiaries. Maybe the people of this country, if it is a large scale development project. So for that, we have to ensure the people's participation. We have to ask from the people whether you have gained the expected results from this project. So it's about ensuring people's participation. And at the same time, that has to work within the legal framework, right? So then that really ensures the rights of the people, right? At the same time, that really we have to look into, not for individuals, right? We will be asking from the entire group of people and we'll be conceptualizing the demands of the whole society in considering evaluations. That's about ensuring the consensus-oriented decision-making. Accordingly, we will be revising the decision. We will look into adding some more, addressing to the gaps in the implementation process. Gaps in the, the impacts that we have planned at the very beginning as goals of our program. At the same time, when we reach to the people and when we ask from them whether you are happy about this development project and whether you have gained the expected results as a result of that, whether you could be able to enhance your living standards. So they feel that they are in the program, this program or the project is, a project that really addressed their needs. They become partners of this project. So that means we'll be ensuring all of them and their thoughts and their demands in revising the projects. So that's all about equity and inclusiveness of the intervention or the decision that we have taken. Not only that, we are very familiar about this aspect, effectiveness and efficiency, whether it has reached to the expected result which within the given period of time, whether it has ensured the value for money aspect. So people are vigilant about this. So when during evaluations, we will be ensuring this aspect as well. And accountability, right? So there's nothing but who is accountable, whether this person or the agency or the entity working, they are responsible enough in, the addressing to the people's need, right? And transparency, whether they are in a full information about the project from the people for them. It's from the government for them, right? It's about the openness, transparency, right? So then, whether we have ensured the responsiveness. So we have taken responsible, a reasonable time in, when we bring this to the stakeholders or the interest parties. So when we talked about these aspects in the evaluation, if we can strengthen these aspects during our maybe formative and summative evaluations, when we evaluate government projects and programs, and so that really shows that we are strengthening the good governance aspect. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge while incorporating these, while ensuring these to run these technical tasks. But anyway, if we can do that, it's all about ensuring the good governance. As long as we ensure the good governance in the evaluation process, people will be happy. People will see that they have reached to their expectations. That really strengthens the policy and the policy process. So let me draw your attention to another area. We are really happy as a country. We have not only a policy, we have a strategy as well. Most of the time we only see the theory, but we don't see theory in practice. But fortunately, we have guidelines for that as well. That's the strength of our system. That strength has to be used in ensuring the good governance practices, which is the need of the time and the society. And they really demand for this. That's why the problem that I have highlighted at the very beginning still exists. We have this gap in the system. So with that, let me conclude with drawing your attention to another point. This is not an easy task. People will not be happy to see the results. It's the decision makers, maybe the people who are responsible for this task. So it's a challenge. It's a problem. And we have to convince, we have to make aware the entire stakeholder groups in this regard, how important the evaluation, how important integrating the governance perspective in the evaluation process to strengthen the public policy and strengthen the public policy implementation process, simply to reach to the end expectation of public policies, that is to ensure the well-being of the people. That's really the message from my end to wind up my thoughts. And I really tried to highlight why the policy evaluation is important, why this technical intervention is important in improving the policy formulation stage. Not only that, the implementation stage, to meet the demand of the people, that is the governance aspect, to ensure the well-being of citizens. So that means improving governance with policy evaluation will improve the well-being of our citizens. So let me wind up my thoughts. Opening the floor over to moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much for your wonderful thoughts. And particularly for managing your time. If you have any questions on this presentation or any concern or any feedback, you can put them in the chat box, or you can raise your hand for asking any question. If you have not any, okay. there's one question, one concern from Mr. Manjula Magamage. Yeah, that's thank you, Dr. Sipal, for your policy review and nice presentation. I propose you to consider more appropriately about accessible use policy. Think following 10 points. Acceptable use policy. I am not sure, none of the policy advisors that he has given some ideas about your to add your presentation and some of his ideas. He shared some of his ideas. He proposed to think about the following 10 points. Sri Lanka rare practice, diversity, equity, inclusiveness and transparency while ensuring wider participation.
Mr. Saputhanthri, Mr. Ranjith has raised his hand.
Okay, Mr. Ranjith Rabu, just ask your question.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Sudasinghe, it's an excellent presentation. But my concerns is also what you have said actually. We do this monitoring and evaluations, and very often we do only a midterm evaluation and end of the year and come out with thick books of facts and things like that. Yes. But unfortunately, the problems are still carried on and the mistakes are going on. But what is a better one that I got involved, I like to share is the tsunami affected projects actually, which was funded by ADB and the European Union. What they did was to set up a team who would work independently and then consisted of a team leader and a lot of specialists like environmentalist, an accountant, a legal person, and like that. Several specialists would go. And there were 2,500 projects. You couldn't visit all of them, but the major projects were selected. And every 6 months, you would visit and talk to the people in the area and find out what the shortcomings and things like that. The evaluation was carried out and all the corrective actions were put it in the report. It can be corrected while the job is progressing, not after the job is finished. So I think that is the way we need to move actually. This midterm and things like that is not going to give the results of good governance. Exactly. What are your thoughts about it?
Actually, it's really, you are correct, Mr. Ranjith, because I believe my personally, my thoughts, this is my points. Policy, number one, policy evaluation team has to be independent. That's why I said people don't like to listen. Sometimes it's the culture of us, right? People think when it's come to an evaluation, there is a group of people there to find faults in them, right? So that's culture. But this is too, because one thing is we are using, I'm a public officer, so we'll be using public money. So it's my responsibility to look into and ensure the value for money. So I'm responsible for that. That is number one from my point. Number two is people have to understand this is evaluation and integrating evaluation, the results from the evaluations to the system it's a must. It's a corrective measure. We have to do that because I'm not a perfect person. So actually the point, it adds value to my presentation. It's a good point for all the stakeholders and the participants here to think twice, right? So it's as an individual, I'm not important. We have to work as a team, right? I think this is like, there's another point that I just want to highlight. We have like books and 100 pages of reports. But if we can be very specific, to the point, to do actually, like maybe in the process evaluations, this gap is there, you do this for that. So strong recommendations that is really needed in the system. That's why I always say we need group of professionals. That's why I highlighted this evidence-based policy making enabling factors. I think that's the strength. We have to do, think again and again for these 3 enabling factors. So that's my, the concern. Over to you, Ms. Ranjith.
Thank you very much. I think I fully agree with the sentiments you expressed. We need to convince the government actually that continuous monitoring is necessary if you are to get good governance and value for money.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor, for your thoughts, and thank you, Ranjith, for your question. Then there's another question from the audience, Doctor, that Ms. Darshini asking a question: how do you maintain the independence of evaluation and increase receptivity to evaluation findings, particularly in government? Any good practices? I think you can give your ideas about that.
Yes, there are, I think, let me answer to this. Independence of evaluations. Like, let me say, in the government, when we appoint committees, there can be influencers to these committees. It's not only in the government, wherever we work, public, private sectors, you can't stop it. But when it's come to it's the way that you bring results that has to be in a kind of a convincing way where they have to look into, right? That is number 1. Because sometimes we see evaluations, recommendations, they are little vague in explaining and identifying things. So therefore, I don't think even in the government appointing independent committees, it's not that difficult, but as long as you produce, the very sharp, to the point with evidence-based, the recommendations. That is number 1. And convincing the government, not only the government, my experience is when you are with, the good recommendations, and if you can bring these recommendations within the short period of time in addressing to a problem, you can easily convince maybe the senior decision makers and the policy makers very easily. They are looking for good recommendations, but unfortunately, most of the recommendations that we bring from evaluations and these research projects, those are all research work, very weak when it's come to the implementation. These are not really doable, workable, applicable recommendations. That may be one of the reasons. Let me tell you one of my experiences, because we recently finalized the traditional medicine policy in Sri Lanka. It was a policy that we have drafted with a wider stakeholder consultation. I think almost all we covered as a sample. So by the end of the day, we had a lot of concerns in answering to the questions of the, let's say, the pressure groups. But we could do that easily, right? So it's simply because the way that we have conducted this formulation drafting process. So the pressure groups, they had a lot of concerns. So we could answer. By the end of the day, luckily, this is now at the adoption stage. So if you do a good job in a transparent way and with full information to the people, I don't think it's difficult. But that the process has to be open, transparent, ensuring the good governance practices. You have to convince that, you have to tell the people, because majority don't understand this technical work. So that has to be in the layman's language, you have to explain. So my experience is that it's not that difficult as long as we work as professionals in the system. It's the trust. It's the way that you work and way that you explain, open this to the way the process that if you can include their participation, especially the good governance principles, I don't think that's difficult for us to convince the interest parties, stakeholders, and the decision makers, the relevant decision makers. I don't think it's difficult. That's really my experience. It's a good question you asked. It's an eye-opener to the others as well. Over to you, Mr. Saputhanthri.
Thank you. We have a little more time. Then I'll ask another question on behalf of the audience. What are your suggestions in promoting and institutionalizing evaluation in the public sector?
Right. Yes, it's a good question. My suggestions, I think I have talked about in brief let me go back, 3 enabling factors in strengthening the policy making process. 3 enabling factors. Number 1, if you want to promote, I think we have to have a good, the availability of data. So at agency level, ministry level, I think this database management is very important, because if it is a macro type of a public policy, it's big data. So, but luckily, we have relatively strong database. These census and statistics, they have good data. We have, in comparing with the other countries in the region, we have a good, the quality of information that we have relatively, yes. And the second point is, we have a strong group of professionals specifically identified, maybe not all, in the system, who are with strong technical skills in policy analysis. So I think that is needed, especially data analysis. So that is also number 2. And also, I believe if we can, develop the trust, and the third pillar is the readiness of the political authority to accept the information and listen to us, and the information that we bring to them to consider. So that's the trust, right? It's the trust, because we should bring them timely important. And I'm sure if we bring them they can give them the good suggestions, they will really listen. That's about the trust. So in brief, we have availability of data for good evaluation, the strong evaluations. We have group of technically strong group of professionals in the system to evaluate and do this professional job. Number 3, to develop the confidence of the political authority to accept the information, to accept the research findings, and to listen to us for doable, workable, practical recommendations. That's my personal idea. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sepalika, for your wonderful thoughts. And we have another two questions from the audience, but we have only 5 minutes. If you can get,
Sure.
one is, our governments in South Asia, Southeast Asia appreciate and support the idea of policy evaluation. What about Sri Lanka? You can, if you can limit your answer for 1 minute.
Yes, I just want to have a clarity. What is it again? Can you repeat kindly?
Our governments in Southeast Asia appreciate and support the idea of policy evaluation. What about Sri Lanka? I think you have already covered.
I think, yes, I think I have answered already.
Yeah.
It's there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for your wonderful thoughts. And we have come to the end of our webinar because we have the very limited time. Then for the last part of webinar, I would like to invite Mr. Prasanna Chandith, our Executive Council member, for closing remarks. Mr. Chandith, is Executive Council member of SLEvA and Additional Secretary of the Leader of the House of the Parliament of Sri Lanka. Over to you, Chandith.
Thank you, Mr. Pradeep. First, I would like to thank our key role player, Dr. Sepalika Sudasinghe. I know personally that you have a very busy schedule, but you accepting our invitation and you did a very good role, because this is a very needy time to discuss this type of subject in the country also, and not only the Sri Lanka, but also other countries also. Thank you very much, Dr. Sepalika Sudasinghe. You spend the time, and also you give a very good, wonderful thoughts to the audience. And also the audience is some Sri Lankan participants as well as the foreign participants also joined the program. I must thank both the Sri Lankan and the foreign participants. You have give some questions, you ask some, share your thoughts, and thank you very much for all the participants who participate the program. And also finally, I think I would like to thank all the committee members and the SLEvA who organize this type of things in every month. And thank you very much, all the members, and behind the things, some officers also there, especially for the SLEvA committee members and the other members also. Thank you very much for your kind attention to this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chandith. Thank you. I also take this opportunity to thank you all for joining from all over the world on behalf of SLEvA. Hope to meet you all again at the next webinar during the next month of July 2024. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.